All right, now we are live. The World Economic Forum's Davos 2023 conference is in full swing. World and business leaders from around the globe are meeting in the mountain countryside of Switzerland to talk about everything from climate change and energy policy to artificial intelligence and robotics. However, we are being told that there's very important work being done, but we're also being told that this is just a conspiracy theory. There's nothing to see here. Everyone turn your attention to something more interesting. Also, Greta Thunberg was arrested in Germany during a protest. We're going to be talking about all of this and more in episode 381 of the In the Tank podcast. Welcome to the In the Tank podcast. As always, I'm your host, Donald Kendal. And today, joining me, got the full crew. Got Jim Lakely, VP of the Heartland Institute. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing okay. I just think I need to issue a warning. I am just brimming with negative energy right now. Some people on this podcast, I think, understand. And got a little bit of that lately. So I just want to warn everybody that, yes, I'm in a very negative space right now, which means I'm kind of in my element. So perfect for the pod.
Yeah, right. So you could expect the Jim rants to be on full effect. Also joining us, Justin Haskins, the director of the Socialism Research Center here at the Heartland Institute. How are you doing today, good sir?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Wondrous, wonderful, fabulous. Chris Talgo, the editorial director at the Heartland Institute. See, I have my notes and I know everyone's titles now. Chris Talgo, how are you today?
I'm doing a lot better than Alec Baldwin is. I can tell you that much. Considering the fact that this is going to be the trial of the century. I can't wait. Get your popcorn ready.
You think it's going to be a trial? You're so naive.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
I think we did trials.
He's going to plead not guilty. He won't take some sort of plea deal. Come on, he's Alec Baldwin.
I thought this is
going to be a great trial. I can't wait.
I thought we did all trials in the court of public opinion. I didn't know that we actually
Well, he's guilty in my eyes. I mean, obviously.
Before we get going, audio-only listeners that are probably catching the show on a Friday or later, you can join us a day earlier on Thursdays at noon Central Time, where we are streaming on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Rumble, and you can join the conversation, put in your comments and questions. Maybe we'll show your comment on stream. Maybe we'll address your questions on the fly, and assuming we still have the system that we had set up for last week, we do have super chats active. So if you want to guarantee that your question is read, first, don't put anything in there that's going to get us banned. But secondly, use that super chat function and we'll make sure to address your question. Also, a little more housekeeping items. The Heartland Institute's 15th International Conference on Climate Change is 5 weeks away, Jim? Probably gives you nervous sweats me just saying that, but I know that you are hard at work trying to line up all the different guests and panels and keynote speeches and all the different logistical issues that go along with holding a conference on the other half of the country. Anything you want to say about this upcoming event, Jim?
Yeah, it's a little bit more than 30 days away. It's pretty exciting. There's you can still get your tickets and join us down there in sunny Orlando, Florida in February. It's a pretty decent place to be in February if you're from around here, although it has been a pretty mild winter here in Chicagoland. I'm sure I just jinxed us and now we're just going to get a snowstorm coming. But yeah, it's going to be a fantastic conference. For those of you who are really interested in the topic of climate change, you might know the name Richard Lindzen. In fact, if you're a fan of Jordan Peterson and watch his YouTube channel, he was recently interviewed for a nice long interview on basically the bias and the corruption of science with Dick Lindzen. He's a retired scientist and professor at MIT. And he is going to be on our program. So we just booked that last week. So you just keep checking climate conference at .heartland.org, or you can just go to heartland.org. We have a link to the conference right there on the front page. And I'm updating the speaker list and the schedule almost daily. So it's going to be a fantastic conference. Hope to see a lot of you there.
Absolutely. Someone that probably won't be there, but probably did get an invite is Greta Thunberg, our favorite climate activist, or at least Justin's favorite climate activist. She is making headlines because she was detained by German police while protesting a coal mine this past week. The internet was all abuzz about this teenager. She's still technically a teenager, standing up to the overlords, even in the face of arrest. What a champion of Earth. What a warrior of the world. What a crusader for the climate. What a crock of crap this is, everybody. This is such a joke. Jim, I know, has a clip that makes it seem that this was like a publicity stunt to provide the event more attention. I mean, that's kind of what it seems like to me. I don't know how possible that is. We will play that clip. We will get to that, but I have another reason to blast St. Greta on this. Germany is the country that was listening most to Greta's green energy, keep it in the ground BS. They were the ones that were shutting down coal power plants and constructing as much wind and solar as possible because of these alarmist messages that come from people like Greta. But guess what? Like we've talked about a billion times on this podcast, that is not sustainable. This type of plan led to energy shortages, dependence on Russian energy. So now that they aren't getting much energy from Russia anymore, and the wind isn't blowing sometimes, Germany had to start digging for coal again. It's either that or freeze and starve to death. So now Greta is swimming in publicity for protesting a situation that she helped create. Like I said, this is all BS, and I can't believe that she is getting so much attention over that.
How
Chris,
dare you?
Yeah, sorry, Greta. Chris, am I off on any of this?
No, you're not at all. My mom was born and raised in Germany, and we still have a lot of family over there that we keep in contact with. And throughout Germany, there are energy shortages. They've stopped keeping the streetlights on at night in order to preserve energy. I mean, that's just one example. I could come up with, countless more. But yeah, Germany 20 years ago or so went on this green energy strategy, and they shut down not only other coal power plants, but they also shut down their nuclear power plants after what happened in Japan. Even though last time I checked, Germany is basically a landlocked country, so there's no chance of tsunamis there, but go figure. So yeah, Germany has gone all in on the renewable energy bonanza here, and what's happened is now they are facing massive energy shortages. The people are freezing. The people need more energy, so Germany has finally reluctantly agreed to reopen some of their coal-fired power plants, and good old Greta goes there to protest it, and it becomes a media session. So she doesn't really deserve this kind of attention, but she keeps getting it.
Justin, what are your thoughts on this situation? Unfortunately, we're probably our news feeds are inundated with this type of stuff because of the line of work we're in. But yeah, you getting sick of seeing Greta's face yet?
Yeah. I mean, I've been sick of her face for a long time, so I don't know. I think, I've said this before. I'll say it again whenever Greta comes up. I think you guys are too hard on Greta. I think that she's clearly wildly delusional and has some serious issues and, all of that. But I think that she actually believes we're all going to die.
Right.
And so, I don't think the things that you're talking about matter. It doesn't matter, Chris, if there are people in Germany who are having trouble keeping the lights on, if the alternative is everybody dies in 50 years. It doesn't matter if, coal-fired power plant's affordable if everyone's going to be dead in 50 years or 100 years or whatever. So, if you start from the underlying assumption that everyone's going to die, then almost anything that you do, no matter how crazy it is, seems actually, I mean, you could make the argument that the crazier you are, the more rational that seems if the threat that you're facing is everybody's dead. So I just don't. I think it all starts there. It all starts with, do you believe we're all going to die? So I would rather have everybody on the left, if they're going to be logically consistent, should be like Greta. They should all be chaining themselves to things, and they should all be skipping school,
right?
And they should all be yelling at people and whatever, because in sailing across the ocean in boats instead of taking planes, like that's what they should be doing. So, I mean, that to me is really, if you're going to adopt that position, then you got to live it. And she actually does, to at least more than most other people, just to a large extent, she does live it. So I don't have any problem with her, really. I have a problem with her beliefs, but I don't really have a problem with the way that she's trying to live in conjunction with those beliefs. That makes sense.
I will say that Brian Stelter, who we're going to talk about later, if he followed that advice and was protesting in the coal mine there, they'd probably need a few more than 3 police officers to drag him off the scene. But so after the initial,
Donnie, just real quick, I think Justin's completely right. I think that Greta's basically a pawn, and she's being used and abused by these people with nefarious intentions, and she is a troubled child, and we know that. So I'm not really attacking her. I'm attacking the position that she's standing for, and that she's being used to to forward, even though she's completely dead wrong about it.
So and just real quick, so I actually think that recently she's realized that she's been used as a pawn. I don't even think she would disagree with that. I think she knows that she's been used as a pawn. I'm going to use that's that why she's. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to use that as a segue to our main topic, but I know where you're going with that. But I do want to bring up that after the initial flood of images of her being carried off by the German police, there was more footage that came out that I referenced earlier, showing that this seems to be more or less a publicity stunt. Jim, do you care to take us through that? We could probably play the video while you're talking about it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Look, the video. I'll put it up, Andy, if you're not ready to go. There we go. So here she is in the video, and she's smiling and laughing with her captors here.
Reminds me of summer camp. They're just the counselors that are, pulling her out of the pool.
First of all, you apparently need an entire platoon of riot police to abscond a 90-pound 19-year-old girl or something, to remove her. And so, but what I love about this clip is that you have, here we're going to pose for the pictures. We're going to wait. All right, with the photographers, I got to get the light right. So, that guy in the background, you better beat it. And then here she is laughing, and I put it in slow-mo in the clip because, this is her. Most people get arrested or not laughing with their captors. That's all I'm saying. So maybe it was a publicity stunt. And it reminds me, when I saw that, it reminded me of when AOC was arrested for a abortion rights protest at the Supreme Court, when they marched her off too, and she put her hands behind her back to pretend that she was handcuffed. It was really being arrested. And then she puts her hands up in the power salute, but her hands are behind her back. Here it is in slow-mo, as if she's being arrested, like Martin Luther King or somebody. These people are laughing as they put on these fake publicity stunts, and they're just laughing at us with their smug little faces. And the problem with this is that the media and our governments are all complicit in these publicity stunts to advance a very anti-human agenda. Chris, you noted that Germany used to have lots of nuclear plants that provided all the energy they needed. And if you actually cared about carbon-free power generation, you would be building more nuclear plants, not taking them all offline. Germany had 17 nuclear power plants before Fukushima. They now have 3. So even the ones they have are not enough to power up that country. And so now they have to go to coal, because you can't just build another nuke site or get it ramped up again like in a month. You can do that with a coal-fired power plant. So that's why they're digging up coal out of the ground. And the problem with Greta being used as a pawn, our friend Steve Malloy calls Greta a Putin puppet. Putin puppet Greta. The problem with this is that she's being used, but she's willingly used because she got famous from it. She's probably getting quite wealthy from it. And it's being used to advance this very anti-human agenda that governments want to impose on the rest of us. There will be scarce energy, but not for them. There will be food shortages, but not for them. It's the rest of us that have to have our way of life and our quality of life and our standards of living diminished greatly so that they can exert more control over us. And so I don't have any sympathy at all for Greta because, again, and she even said the other day, what was it, that like, this is really all about imposing global socialism, that this is what this is all about anyway. So yeah, I may have at one time felt sorry for her when she was a teenager being manipulated by all of these powerful people, but they have used her to cudgel the rest of the world. How dare you, as she famously said, to try to impose sensible energy policy that actually works, that will provide enough energy for a modern society. And if these green radical nut jobs were actually interested in reducing CO2 emissions, they would have been encouraging nuclear power in Germany, not destroying it all and now leading to blackouts. But they don't care about that. They don't really care about the environment. They care about command and control over the largest population that they can get their hands on.
Yeah, no, and I think that's kind of what the relationship was with Greta and these people that are at meeting in Davos right now, where they're like, oh yeah, she's this superstar and she's leading these little school protests where they walk out on Fridays for climate justice or something like that. Let's bring her over to Davos and we can have her talk and inspire all the youth and all of that. And in reality, these Davos people, they don't really care about any of this. I mean, that's pretty exemplified by all the private jets and everything that we've talked about a million times, whatever. So they brought her in, and then what does she do? She chastises them for doing all talk and no action, and accuses them of not actually believing what they're saying. And that's where the famous how dare you stuff comes from, was one of these Davos appearances. And then I think it was last year that she was out front leading a chant of you could shove the climate crisis up your where or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after that they're just don't invite that Greta girl anymore. Send her to Germany for publicity stunts if we wanted to have her champion this cause anymore. But that does lead us. That's why I wanted to bring up, use that as a segue to talk about our main topic, which is what is currently going on in Davos, Switzerland. It is their annual World Economic Forum Davos conference that is, currently hosting thousands of world leaders and business leaders from across the world, and their little posh escape where they can go skiing and have ladies of the night for whatever article
for $2,500. Yeah,
that was a great article. It was about
the economy.
Donnie is referring to, I think it might have been New York Post. I can't remember. Somebody did an article about how the prostitute business is doing really well in Davos right now, and there's all these ads for $2,500 a night prostitutes and stuff because they're top of the line, so they get the big money.
Right.
So that's fun.
That's right. That's why everyone clamors to go over there. It's not because of we've got to unite and protect the world against this evil scourge of capitalism and carbon dioxide or anything like that. It's no, it's a fun escape for them. They get to go skiing, have some fun or whatever, and they may have to sit and do a panel or something like that.
No. You can do both. You can save the world and be with prostitutes.
Good
it's
point.
possible.
Good point. I should be fair. I should be fair.
Yeah.
So, of course, us being some of the leading voices on exposing the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, ESG, etc., we've been paying pretty close attention to this conference. The theme of the conference seems to be the year of the poly crisis. We're being told that between COVID and climate change and the war in Ukraine, that we're basically dealing with a bunch of stuff simultaneously from all sides. And we've been watching the panels, listening to Klaus Schwab speak, reading the articles that have stemmed from the conference, and I've derived some kind of interesting conclusions about what's going on here. So, we have plenty to talk about in regards to the conference, but I feel like there's a meta theme of this conference. And that meta theme of the conference is don't listen to all the conspiracy theories about us. I really think that is the key message. You won't see that in their press release about this conference. You won't see that on their landing page for this conference. But I think that is kind of the meta theme for this entire conference. So there's a lot of stories that are coming out. If you just Google Davos, you'll see a whole bunch of these stories. I'm just going to read off a bunch of headlines for you. This is just a small fraction of the headlines that'll pop up. CNN, Davos conspiracy theories used to live on the fringe corners of the internet. Now they've gone mainstream. AP News, the elites arrive in Davos. Conspiracy theories thrive online. Canadian Broadcasting Company, conspiracy theories thrive online as World Economic Forum opens. Time magazine, as elites rive in Davos, conspiracy theories thrive online. It's like they're all reading from the same press release and generating these articles that are all about these crazy conspiracy theories. Yes, I know all the most important and influential people around the world are meeting in Davos to talk and all of that, but don't pay too much attention. It's all conspiracy theories to pay any attention to that. And there's a couple of things that are in these articles. They all kind of repeat some of the same stuff. One of the proofs of this conspiracy is the fact that Fox News is talking more and more about the Great Reset over the past couple of years. That's proof of a conspiracy. There's a paragraph here that says, take Glenn Beck, for example. I think this is in the CNN video. Take Glenn Beck, for example, the right-wing media personality who wrote a conspiratorial book called The Great Reset, playing off the World Economic Forum's 2020 COVID theme. Mocked the idea on Tuesday that conspiracy theories circulate around the event while simultaneously giving oxygen to some of those very conspiracies when he interviewed a guest who claimed, unchallenged, that the gathered world leaders, quote, want you to eat insects rather than meat. So, Justin, as the person that article is probably referring to...
It's not. That's not me.
That was Wednesday, wasn't it? You were
yeah, no, that wasn't me. I think he might actually be referring to Michael Schellenberger, who was also on the show, and I think he was on the show later in the week.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't remember talking about crickets. Although you and I have done a whole video just specifically, I think, on that topic, right?
Before I let you comment on all of this, I will say that I am like very sensitive to conspiracy theories and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know about conspiracy theories. I know how they can metastasize. And one of the things was like this: they want you to eat bugs thing. We did a whole video on this, and it's just like, all right, I'm gonna look into it myself. And it didn't take me long to find like a dozen articles on the World Economic Forum talking about the benefits of eating bugs. So it's not a conspiracy theory. But Justin, what are your thoughts about all this rash of, it's just a conspiracy to pay attention to these people talk?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what confuses me is, so there definitely are conspiracy theories that are related to Davos and to the World Economic Forum. A lot of them, I think, have to do with, like, was COVID created by the World Economic Forum or the people associated with it to release on purpose into the world in order to cause all these problems? Like, that would be one conspiracy theory I've heard, and there are others, they definitely exist, but the conspiracy theories exist about everything. I mean, there are people who believe that the world is really flat and that there's this massive conspiracy to convince everybody that the earth is not flat. There's conspiracies about the moon landing. There's conspiracies about all kinds of different stuff, right? So that doesn't mean that the moon doesn't exist, right? Or that people, like, obviously it does. It also, like, 9/11 was an inside job. That's a conspiracy theory. That's not true. I don't believe that's true. But 9/11 happened. So, like, the idea that we can just, say, well, because there's people talking about conspiracies around an event, that means the event must not be real, is ridiculous. Right. Of course, all conspiracies are based at least in a little bit of reality. It's not like we're creating conspiracies based on completely fictional worlds with fictional people in them. They involve real people and real worlds and real things happening. And real
quotes that we directly quote.
Right. Well, and that's the crazy thing. So the stuff that is real about the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset is so incredibly well documented that to say that it is obviously not true is completely ludicrous. All you have to do is read the quotes, read the research, they're not, they don't hide it at all. It's not it's not hard to prove. It literally is on, you could find most of what they would say is conspiracy theory. You could find most of that well documented on just one website, on the World Economic Forum's website. That's all you have to do. Just go there and read a bunch of different articles from them, and you will find almost anything that you can think of on there. So I don't really even understand what they're saying.
I'm going to give you another opportunity to talk about this because I have another article later that I want you to comment on. But Chris, the corporate media, have they been paying attention to this Davos thing at all? And if so, is it in the context of this is all just conspiracy theory talk?
No, they're not even mentioning it. They are
Really?
completely obsessed with George Santos right now and all his shenanigans, which I wouldn't go into. But Donnie, I think this shows how thin-skinned they are, and just how hypersensitive they are. Because as Justin said, this is all on their website. They have made speeches about this. We have them quoted saying all these things, but then when you say it in public, it's don't say that. You're a conspiracy theorist. It's crazy. I don't know what to make of it beside the fact that the mainstream media wants to protect them. And these people have a tendency to say things and write things on their website that are outrageous and nonsensical. And sometimes, the people get onto it, they catch onto it. And what happens most of the time on the World Economic Forum, it's just memory hold. It just disappears. So they have quite a history of taking down links and stories that are basically being mocked in the press, because if there's one thing these people don't like, it's when you mock them.
Right. Yeah, Jim, you and I had a similar thought almost simultaneously last night. I took a look at some of the panels. Not a whole lot of striking titles to the panels. I watched a couple and only took a couple of notes. There was nothing too thrilling in the panels I watched. Then I watched Klaus Schwab's opening speech for the conference, and it was mostly boilerplate, uninspiring rhetoric that you expect to hear from these guys. The world's in crisis, climate change, war in Ukraine, but this gives us an opportunity, and if we all can manage to work together, then we can overcome blah, 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 blah. It was like the same old stuff that you always hear. And that's when the thought struck me. Is this entire year's conference dedicated to dispelling the idea that these people have aims to control the world? Like, that was what I came up with last night. It was almost as if they're like trying to be so bland this year in an effort to go back to flying under the radar. And then last night I checked my email and I see a comment from you saying essentially the same thing. So I have that right.
You have that right. Yeah, I think they're trying to bore us to death so that we'll stop paying attention to them.
Right.
That seems to be a pretty reasonable conspiracy theory, or also known as explanations for what's going on. But yeah, this whole conspiracy theory stuff, I mean, it's maddening, because as Justin pointed out, if we can quote things you've put on your own website and talk about them and not even extend the logic of what you've put on your website very far, not very far at all, just reading what is on your website, just playing videos that say in the future, you will own nothing, you will have no privacy, and you'll never be happier. That's their vision of the world. When you point out stuff like Klaus Schwab bragging that he has installed that acolytes from his training of them on how to be a great globalist leader. He has these people, he brags that they're now in positions of power, like Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, Jacinda Ardern, who just resigned as Prime Minister of New Zealand. All over Europe and over the globe, he has people that he has trained into this agenda, this globalist agenda, and has them in positions of power. That's not a conspiracy theory when he says it himself, and you happen to repeat it and put it out there. They're calling it a conspiracy theory because people, and they're upset. This goes back to me boring this year, although I think there's a lot of exciting stuff happening there, or at least interesting stuff happening there on the clips that I've found on Twitter and elsewhere. But it's to bore you. They're only upset because people are paying attention. They're only upset. And then they have their allies in the media who will push this message for them about conspiracy theories, about Glenn Beck, and about the Great Reset book that Justin co-wrote with him and Donnie did a lot of research on. They're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, when you start talking about conspiracy theories, they do crop up from time to time. And they don't crop up in a vacuum. They crop up when there's a lack of trust in our media and our institutions. Mm-hmm. And our media and our institutions have completely destroyed any reason to trust them over the last, I would say go all the way back to the 2016 election, but peddling actual conspiracies like the Russian collusion hoax, like let's just say certain medicines for certain
Already
viruses
too far.
Already too far are actually safe and effective and work all the time, and that there are no downsides to it. I mean, our institutions of media have completely destroyed that credibility. So when you have no trust, when you can't trust what you're being told by your authorities, you start to move in your mind a better and real explanation, because the explanations you're getting out of your media and institutions is bullshit. It's always been bullshit, and you just have a BS detector. And so you start to think about your own ideas. But they also call it a conspiracy theory, even though, again, you're just repeating what they said. You're reading things on their website. And it's a signal to the normies out there, not guys like us and the listeners to this podcast and those who watch on YouTube, who are really into these topics and research them and read about them all the time and talk about them amongst ourselves and with friends. They're trying to signal to the normies that, oh my God, if you're listening to anything those people are saying, you're in the out group. You know, you really should be socially ostracized, because that's wacky conspiracy theory stuff. Actually reading what Klaus Schwab says, or actually playing a clip from Klaus Schwab, that's conspiracy theory stuff. And so it's very effective. That's why they use it, because it gets normal people who have lives that don't involve exploring and researching these sorts of things a reason to just never pay attention. And that's what they want. The only thing they're mad about, if they're even mad, you know, I think they're so powerful, they really don't really feel any threats. But if they're feeling anything at all, it's because people are starting to pay attention. These people just can't keep their mouths shut. They should be saying they shouldn't be saying all these silent parts, the quiet parts out loud, but they just keep doing it. And the only thing they're upset about is that people are starting to pay attention. And it's because of the book, The Great Reset, the work that Glenn Beck and Justin Haskins and you, Donnie, have done, and the work of the Heartland Institute and others. And yeah, you see a lot of momentum and a lot of people talking about all of this now that they weren't talking about it 2 years ago. And I'd hope that's starting to get the people at the World Economic Forum just a smidge worried.
Yeah. And to further support my take, I referenced a couple of more articles that I've seen over the past couple of weeks and months. And one was just recently. It's an article from Yahoo titled "Larry Fink," who's the head of BlackRock, says ESG narrative is become ugly and personal. That was the headline. In it, Fink bemoans the fact that the plans of reshaping the economy and society by extension has gotten so much negative attention. Or how about the stories that Justin, you and I have talked about a whole bunch of times, where the World Economic Forum started to run away from a term that they created, the Great Reset, and even publish an apology video about it. It's like one of our favorite things online. I really think the World Economic Forum and advocates of ESG thrived in the shadows and like under the radar. And they set up all this infrastructure without anybody giving it a second look. And now, like Jim was saying, this story is blown wide open. ESG and the World Economic Forum, Great Reset have become common terms in the conservative lexicon. And I think the Davos crowd is reeling because of this. And like I said, my theory is that this whole conference was like, don't pay attention to us. We're not that important. Justin, any further comments on this facet of the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the reason they get so upset, and I actually do think that there is some truth to this in a very delusional way. The reason that they get so upset is because I really truly believe that not all, but a sizable number of people who are involved in all of this believe that they are part of saving the world. They do believe that if you just gave them more power and authority over people's lives, like, everything would be so much better. We would all be better off. You know, we just need to trust them with the power and authority. They're not going to abuse it. Don't worry. They're not bad guys. It's sort of this like benevolent dictator kind of mentality of like, you know, okay, we have a lot of power. All right. Yeah. But we're good guys. So like, don't get mad at us because we have a lot of power. We're doing good things with it. Like that's the idea. So then when people say, hey, you guys are controlling society, you want to control society, you want to micromanage everything, you have this ESG thing, you want to destroy whole industries and businesses, and you want to determine what people can say and can't say online, and you want to call certain kinds of political and ideological and religious speech hate speech, and you want to control what people can talk about in terms of healthcare and all this stuff, right? We look at all that and say that's terrible. And they look at those same things, the exact same things. And I don't think they actually dispute a lot of it. I think they actually say, well, yeah, but it's only the bad stuff that we want to ban. So don't worry about it. We're not gonna actually, stop the good guys from talking online, and we're not going to stop, really good speech, just hate speech. We're not going to, we're not going to do we're not going to get rid of products and services that are good for the world, just things that are bad for the planet. Like, that's all we're going to do. And so they can't, I actually think there is a part of them that is like just totally bewildered by this. Like, don't you want us to be good guys? Like, aren't you happy that we're benevolent and not, we could be bad dictators? We have a lot of power. We could be that. We're not, obviously, and that's just, they just don't get it. I truly think that they just don't understand that freedom in and of itself has value. Like, they don't see it that way. Yeah. They think that freedom only has value when it is used for certain things. And then in other cases, it's not valuable. It's actually bad. And you can see this when you read some of Klaus Schwab's stuff. We've talked about this before, and I think we've put it in some of the books. I don't know if it's in the upcoming one or in the last one, but where Klaus Schwab talks about this sort of neoliberalism that's just selfishness. And it's selfishness, this neoliberalism. And neoliberalism to him means free markets. Neo meaning new, free market movement. And he attacks Milton Friedman, and he doesn't like free markets. And he thinks that it just absolutely total free market capitalism is bad for the world and it's selfish. And I think they really do see it that way. And so for people like us who say, well, you're trying to control my life, to them, it's like, well, yeah, but in a good way. And right. And they just can't see it. They can't imagine why we wouldn't be happy that they're benevolent dictators and not Vladimir Putin. Sure. And it's because they live in a different universe. Yeah. There's all of this isn't to say that there isn't anything that's like noteworthy that's going on in Davos, because there are several things that we need to talk about. But first, we can't pass up an opportunity to make fun of John Kerry, right? I mean, we have a clip of John Kerry, that him making a fool of himself again. I mean, this is like a tradition of Davos, is John Kerry putting a foot in his mouth. So if we have that clip, let's tee that one up. That would be fantastic.
Stop and think about it. It's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial to think about, quote, saving the planet. And if you said that to most people, they think you're just a crazy tree-hugging, lefty, liberal, do-gooder, whatever, and there's no relationship. But really, that's where we are.
What's so funny is you could tell from this clip and other ones that we'll probably show is that he was put in like a back room where he was in a crowd, in front of a crowd of like 5 people, which you could hear like one person laughing when he says that. But I mean, we talk about the egos on these people, but comparing yourself to some extraterrestrial being, I mean, that seems to be a whole new level. Chris, what are your... I'm gonna go
real quick before. Well, hold on. Before Chris, one real quick thing. It's interesting that he didn't use. I think in previous times they would have said God, but since they don't probably believe in that, they just immediately go to aliens, which I think is like the next closest, most realistic possibility for them of like controlling the universe. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting choice of words.
And to that comment that was just shown about like being a lizard, like he sticks his tongue out like so much. You know what? I'm going to generate a whole nother conspiracy theory. So let's just not go there. Chris, egos on these people. Comments.
The egos are obviously, outsized, but I think that there is a connection between Al Gore and John Kerry because both were rejected by the American people in their bids to become the president. And I think that they are very bitter about that. And I think that they hold the American people in contempt because they did not elect them to be the president, in 2000 and in 2004, and they lost to George W. Bush. So I think that there is a connection between those two as to why they are going to places like the World Economic Forum and saying, give us all the power, listen to us, shut up, and we will make everything great, because they are still so angry over being rejected by the American people.
Yeah, it's a consolation prize on the left. If you lose being the president, you get to be like a climate czar or something like that. That's the consolation prize. I could just see Klaus Schwab sitting there being like, I specifically told everyone not to say anything stupid this year. Jim, I'm going to get to
but Donnie, but Klaus Schwab himself said that he wants to master the future and all these poly crises in his opening remarks. So
true enough.
Klaus is definitely, defying his own orders.
Jim, I want to get to a what I think is a very noteworthy story coming out of Davos, but thoughts on, I got to give you thoughts on John Kerry and his. You probably have more to say about John Kerry than any of us, so I want to give you opportunity to spike the football on that guy.
Well, I mean, I won't say too much about it. I mean, the clip kind of speaks for itself. I mean, but these people are delusional, and I don't give them, just because they have these delusions of grandeur about themselves and their capabilities. I mean, it's a parade of mediocrities. I mean, John Kerry, are you serious? I mean, this guy is smart enough to make global climate policy. Are you insane to have that kind of sense of yourself? I mean, gosh, I'm almost jealous to have that much self-confidence, for crying out loud. But they see themselves as, like, when he made they see themselves as above us, literally, like extraterrestrials who have come to save the earth from us stupid, useless eating mouth breathers, that are ruining this planet. Only they, the elite, the smart, the people who fly in on a private jet and then get a helicopter to get there and then drive another 20 minutes in an SUV to lecture us on how we need to all change our lives to save the planet. Oh my God. Thank you, John Kerry. Thank you for coming down from the heavens to save us from ourselves and to save the world. They really are delusional. They believe this. Of course, it's complete nonsense. We're not destroying the earth. We don't need their help, for crying out loud. And every single solution they have, by the way, just happens to involve taking all of your freedom away. The more freedom they can take from you, the better the earth will be. The more we'll be able to save people. And like Justin said, they just can't seem, if you give them the benefit of the doubt, if you don't put malign intent in their aims, they think they're doing what they can to save the planet. When Justin was talking, I brought up, it reminded me of a famous quote, James Madison. He said, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. Mm-hmm. So like an angel is an extraterrestrial, technically. So these people really do see themselves as angels who should be governing us, because men are not angels, but they are. And so that's that at best benign dictatorship that, once you do what you're told, I know you're going to resist because you hate giving up, the way you live your life because you enjoy yourself, but once you get over that, you'll believe me, it'll be better. Everyone's going to be better. Like you said, you'll own nothing and be happy. Well, says you, but I still have freedom and should be able to live the life the way I want to. And every time, it doesn't matter how beneficent you think you are, every society that goes down this road ends in tyranny and death and misery. All of them, every single one.
Yeah. So there's a kind of an interesting story that I saw that came out of Davos. So let's put this in the interesting things that did actually come out of Davos category. Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan, who is a huge proponent of ESG and everything, is very down with the Great Reset agenda. He's at Davos, and he had this to say about the crazy ESG conspiracy and the crazy notion about resetting the economy. Crazy stuff, everybody. Oh. CNBC headline, Bank of America CEO says new ESG rules are needed to reboot capitalism. I mean, come on, folks. We are in like absolute absurd clown world at this point. Whoops. He said Wednesday that current efforts to produce a set of official global standards on ESG issues were vital to, quote, align capitalism with what society wants from it. And by society, he means the elites that are at Davos right now. So I'm reading from the article. Asked by CNBC's Karen So at the World Economic Forum in Davos, whether stakeholder capitalism needs a reboot through the creation of common standards for corporate disclosures, Moynihan said he was converted to the idea after seeing hundreds of companies sign up to the UN Sustainability Development Goals in 2017, followed by ongoing debate over what concepts like sustainability actually mean and accusations of greenwashing. So basically, it wasn't enough for all these people to sign on to these toothless deals that they're going to be more green and care about the future or whatever. No. We need mandates now. That's what Moynihan is saying. Says Moynihan also said it was crucial that sustainability and ethical standards became official and global, but with standardized cross-jurisdiction rules that are part of companies' annual reports and audited, he continued, quote, then frankly, an investment manager, a consumer, society, others can sit there and say, here's a line that is acceptable, and you're either above that line or you're below that line. If you're below it, we shouldn't do business with you. And if you're above it, tell us how you're making progress along these important things. So, I mean, that's as clear as you can state it. You don't need conspiracy theories. You don't need to read between the lines. He is basically saying ESG needs to be globalized throughout the entire world, standardized throughout the entire world, and that that score, if you're above or below whatever score we determine, then you shouldn't be able to do business. Like that's the conspiracy. That is the whole point of the Great Reset book that we've brought up a couple of times during this. This is not a conspiracy at all. He's directly saying this. We're just quoting him. So Justin, I thought this was an incredible article. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's amazing that he's admitting it. I kind of thought that they would be a little bit more careful in the wake of the Great Reset and everything that happened, but they just don't know how to be. Yeah, I don't think they know how to be. But if you go back to for those listeners and people who've been watching it for a while, they might remember that Brian Moynihan was one of the key figures in developing the World Economic Forum's official ESG metrics, which they released the first draft of that back in early 2020, I believe. And then the final draft was released in September of 2020. Toward Common Metrics, ESG. If you Google that, you'll find those at the WEF's website. And they stated very plainly that one of the reasons why the World Economic Forum was developing its own set of ESG metrics is because so many ESG metric systems existed out in the world. And it was creating all kinds of problems and confusion, and corporations were complaining, how are we supposed to keep up with all these different metrics? There's too many, and our ESG departments are flooded with metrics. What do we do? And so the answer is have one system of global metrics, right? That makes sense. And so this is the natural evolution.
Right.
If you're going to have a system, a social credit scoring system, there can't be 50. That doesn't work. There has to be one, right? And so it was just a matter of time before you start. And I think it's just the beginning. We're going to see lots and lots and lots of other CEOs say, yeah, of course, one system, one set of metrics. We can't have a million sets of metrics. And at some point in time, naturally, you're going to then have to say, okay, well, if we're only going to have one set of metrics, we all have to agree on what those metrics are. Someone has to be the one that's going to determine what those metrics are. And if you start to have governments create ESG metrics that are mandatory, that has to be included in whatever that system is. Otherwise, you don't have one system. And so we're headed toward a world where there is going to be a mandatory ESG system in the West, for sure. And it is going to be basically one system. And Canada and the United States and Europe will all have one system or something close to it. And it's going to be determined by government with help from corporations. That is going to happen. The European Union, as when I was on Glenn Beck's show last week, we talked about this on the air. The European Union is on the verge of passing a mandatory ESG system, mandatory from government. And so it's only a matter of time before that one system that Brian Moynihan is talking about is some sort of quasi-European ESG American system. It's going to be mandatory. It's going to be from government, and we're all going to be forced to live under it. And supposedly this is the free market. This is just capitalism. And
Yeah.
obviously it's not, but it doesn't matter to these people because they're not really interested in free markets. They're not really interested in what consumers want. They're interested in what they want.
Yeah, Chris, I thought this was a conspiracy theory. I mean, is the Bank of America CEO wearing tinfoil hats and watching too much Alex Jones? I mean, someone's got to set him straight, right? This isn't real. What do you think?
Well, unfortunately, I am a Bank of America customer, and
Oh, no.
I know all too well about their ESG priorities because a couple of years ago they started sending me documents in the mail saying, "Mr. Talgo, your investment portfolio was not ESG friendly enough. Please, 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 like do stuff." Okay, so I agree with Justin that yes, a one size fits all ESG system is probably coming down the pike. And I think a lot of that also has to do with these multinational corporations, especially in America, that have sold out their own country in order to do business in China and in Europe. And if a lot of these big, international corporations based in the United States actually would put their foot down, and if they had, the support of the U.S. government, which obviously they don't now with the current administration, I think that the entire thing could fall apart because the United States still to this day is the economic, powerhouse, around the world. But for some reason, and, there's many reasons, I'm sure, a lot of the big CEOs, whether it's, Mark Beinoff or Brian Moynihan, I mean, we can go on and on, they are pushing this stuff, across the board. So unless there's a organic pushback either from the American people or from American-based corporations, I agree with Justin. We're probably going to see a universal ESG system sooner rather than later, and I think that would be a disaster, and I think that would probably spell the end of free market capitalism as we currently know it.
Jim, do you have anything to add to this, or do you want first swipe at the next first topic?
Let's move on.
All right. There is not enough time to get to everything that I have on my list. I have an article here that is exclusive to stoppingsocialism.com. It is titled Klaus Schwab Time May Be Almost Up. And it's basically there's pressure going on inside the World Economic Forum to oust Klaus Schwab as the leader. So read that. There's a bunch of interesting quotes. Maybe we'll do a separate video just on that topic, but you can go to stoppingsocialism.com to check that one out. There's another clip that I want to play here, and it is from the UN, I think it's General Secretary Antonio Gutierrez. It's during a presentation about disinformation and social media, and he reveals something that you are going to hear Justin and I talk a lot about in the coming months. So let's go ahead and play that clip number 1 from him, and if you want to start it at the 55-second mark, it'd be great.
A man bites a dog. The algorithms and the business model of social media are constructed in such a way that they tend to expand the, I would say, the informations, the positions, the ideas that are more extreme, that are more controversial, that create more trouble. And so I think it's not a question of censorship that will solve the problem. The question is, the business model needs to be redesigned. The algorithms need to be redesigned in order not to be based on evil to make profit.
Yeah, you can go ahead and stop
such
it
a
right
good point.
there.
When
So this is a snapshot of a much larger thing that you are going to hear Justin and I talk about a lot more in the coming months. And that's this idea that technology has to be controlled. It's not good enough that social media algorithms are designed to drive as much traffic and interaction as possible. No. They have to be specifically designed to promote the right information. Think of it like embedding ESG directly into the foundations of technology. But Jim, you were patient, so I'll give you first swing at this. You found this clip, actually. It was your suggestion to play this.
I did, and it's a window into the mindset, which we talk about a lot on this podcast. And it's that, these powerful global leaders, and let's not kid ourselves. This isn't just these people aren't just hanging around. This isn't just a bull session where they try to imagine a better world. They're meeting to plan and execute what they see as a quote unquote better world. So that's why this stuff matters. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's why they are there. That's why, heck, even Governor Pritzker here in Illinois is over there for some reason. I don't know why. It's a scary thought anyway. but what worries them is technology, right? And so you're only in their ideal situation, because they're in a big hurry. They're in a big hurry to fix the world and to save the world. And the things standing in their way are freedom-oriented people. So they want algorithms to, as he said, not be aimed toward evil, or like allowing evil to happen.
Radicalism or something.
Radicalism, yeah. Well, they define as disinformation or radicalism or dangerous any speech that doesn't exactly agree with them. Mm-hmm. You're not actually, it's not disinformation to read what Klaus Schwab says and say it on a podcast. It's not disinformation or dangerous to disagree with them, but they think it is. And they're demanding. In fact, they've seen how it can work. You just have to look at the 2020 election here in the United States. Our social media companies were in league with the government of the United States, and you might call it the deep state, and the Democratic Party to suppress any news, or I should say one big news story that could have hurt Joe Biden's chances of winning in 2020. So they know and see that it can work. And they're worried. Again, Elon Musk was invited to WEF. He did not go to Davos. He decided he thought it was all silly and dumb, so he wasn't going. But they're seeing what he's doing with Twitter and allowing people to actually speak. Freedom and free speech is a huge threat to their entire agenda, and that's why they need to have it controlled.
Yeah, hey, Donnie, just one quick thing to add to that. So Elon Musk, thank God he didn't go to Davos for this, but he did give us a poll on Twitter, and guess what? He basically asked a very simple question: should the World Economic Forum control the world? More than 2.5 million people voted, and 86% said no.
Yeah,
thank you, Elon Musk.
And the other 14% just tried to troll him by voting yes. But Justin, when I saw that clip and the idea of these algorithms need to be redesigned to make sure the right information was pushed forward, this made me think of the stuff that we're currently working on. And surely you don't want to give away everything about it, but does this clip stand out to you the same way that it stood out to me?
Yeah, there is a movement within the World Economic Forum to redesign the future, create a new blueprint for humanity. These are the kinds of direct quotes that you'll see. And through technology and through transforming technology, and not just the technology of today, but especially the technology of the future, in such a way that it has ESG principles embedded in it from the very beginning, so that you don't have to worry about having another out of control internet, because from their perspective, that's how they see the internet. They think it's just totally out of control. It's the wild, wild west. There's way too much freedom on the internet. That's what they would say. And all these horrible things happen on the internet because we don't have enough control over it. So we can't allow this to happen in, say, the metaverse, or with artificial intelligence, or with cryptocurrencies, or with whatever that's going to continue to develop over time. We have to embed these new technologies with ESG principles from the ground up, so that they are diverse and equitable and fair. And as the head of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, said there, not evil, right? That's what we need. And notice that the man at the very end of the clip just sort of said like an amen, like, oh yeah, absolutely, we need to do this, or whatever he said. It was a strong affirmation. That guy is Borge Brende. He's the president of the World Economic Forum. Okay. So here you have the president of the World Economic Forum, and you have the head of the United Nations at one of the most powerful, influential gatherings of elites in the world, saying, we gotta put rules on all technology.
Right.
And nobody's going to pay attention to that.
Right.
I mean,
no, it's a conspiracy theory if you take them seriously.
Yeah,
it's a conspiracy theory if you take them seriously.
It's amazing. These are not just people. They're not just some random guys like us, right? Like this is the head of the United Nations talking to the head of the World Economic Forum in front of you know how many world leaders, heads of state are going to Davos this year? It's like more than 50. So this is like the heads of corporations, multi-billionaires, head of BlackRock, all the heads of central banks, the most powerful corporations, the most powerful wealthy people in the world, all in one room. And you've got the head of the United Nations saying to the head of the World Economic Forum, we got to put rules on all this stuff, and we got to be the ones that design it, and we can't allow evil to proliferate in technology, and we got to just rewrite the algorithms so that people aren't allowed to say whatever they want on social media, and the rest of the media is just going to totally ignore it as if something like that never happened. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely incredible. We are about 30 seconds away from our hour mark. Chris, Jim, any other last words of wisdom or anything you want to get off your chest before we wrap up this week's show?
Well, I had a clip of Brian Stelter that we were going to play.
Thank
we
God
didn't have a
don't
chance
time
to
for
play.
that.
Yeah, we don't have time for that. It was great. I'll just say, it looks like he's been stress eating since he got fired from CNN. So, I hope he can get himself in better shape. Live a long life.
That's right. There was a bunch of other stuff in my notes that we didn't have time to get to. This World Economic Forum new initiative to help unlock $3 trillion needed per year for climate and nature. And this kind of ties into something that Justin's been talking a lot about, having to do with potential land grab issues and the 30% by 2030 thing. And stay tuned to Stopping Socialism TV. Maybe we'll cut a separate video just for that. Like I mentioned, Klaus Schwab being ousted from the World Economic Forum. We might cut a video just for that. So if you're not a subscriber to Stopping Socialism TV on YouTube, you should. You can help us out by just doing a handful of things, hitting the subscribe button, sharing this content, hitting the like button, even leaving a comment under the video helps break through that big tech algorithm that prevents content like this from being shown to more people. If you would like, you can follow us on Twitter at InTheTankPod. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions for the show, feel free to email us at InTheTankPodcast@gmail.com. Jim Lakely, where can the fine people find you?
At J Lakely on Twitter, at Heartland Inst on Twitter, and always visit heartland.org.
Fantastic. Justin Haskins, same question.
At Justin T. Haskins on every social media platform. Well, not everyone. I'm not on TikTok, but on most other social media platforms.
I could see you doing dances for TikTok. Maybe you should consider it. Chris Talgo. Chris Talgo, what do you have to pitch today?
StoppingSocialism.com and Heartland.org. Lots and lots of great content up there, especially about the World Economic Forum.
Yes, we are planning on putting a lot of material out there. So if you're not a regular visitor to Heartland.org or StoppingSocialism.com, make sure you make that part of your, looking online stuff. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. We will talk to you next week.
I see the need for